You know what's funny? Back in college, I was the boring guy. The one who stayed in on Friday nights. The one who didn't drink, didn't chase girls, didn't blow his parents' money on flashy things just to belong. I remember sitting in the corner during group hangouts, quietly working on freelance projects while they laughed. They thought I was just awkward, socially dull, maybe even scared of life. But I was watching. I watched Josh get handed internships through his dad's connections. I watched Liam mock the way I dressed. I watched Ethan, the loud one, tell everyone I'd end up working behind a help desk, making $35K a year. I never argued. I never clapped back.
I just listen.
They said, you can't build anything serious if you're not a people person. You gotta be flashy, bro. You need presence. And my favorite, be realistic. Realistic? Let me tell you what's realistic. 7 years later, Josh applied for a job at my company. Liam DM'd me, asking if I remembered him. And Ethan, he still talks like he owns the world. But he's stuck in a mid-level sales job at a company that's being quietly acquired. By me, they thought I was behind, but I wasn't behind. I was just silent. And now, it's already too late. They graduated, and I disappeared. No going away party, no final drinks, no promises of we'll keep in touch. Just me, packing my things, and heading back to my hometown, where the walls were thin, and the heater didn't work half the time. That's where I started, to a one-bedroom apartment above an old bookstore, while they posted selfies in glass offices with floor-to-ceiling views. I sat at a $90 desk I built from second-hand IKEA scraps, writing code for clients who paid me just enough to afford instant noodles and rent. It wasn't Instagram-worthy. It wasn't pretty, but it was mine. I had spent weeks prepping my pitch deck, designing mock-ups. I remember the first time I tried to pitch a real client, an architecture firm in Atlanta, rehearsing every word like it was a TED Talk. They ghosted me. I thought I nailed it. That was my first real taste of the business world. Didn't even say no thanks. Cold, but I didn't stop, and absolutely uninterested in who I was or where I came from. Silent. Every rejection became fuel. Every ignored email pushed me to learn more. I stopped watching Netflix. It wasn't a sacrifice. I even stopped dating. I stopped playing games. It was a choice. I stayed still. And while the world kept moving, still and focused. By year 2, I had 11 clients on monthly retainers. Small-time businesses, cafes, coaches, a local mechanic. I was paying my bills, but I was doing what most of my old classmates couldn't. Nothing glamorous. They graduated, and I disappeared. No going away party, no final drinks, no promises of we'll keep in touch. Just me, packing my things, and heading back to my hometown, to a one-bedroom apartment above an old bookstore, where the walls were thin, and the heater didn't work half the time. That's where I started. While they posted selfies in glass offices with floor-to-ceiling views, I sat at a $90 desk I built from second-hand IKEA scraps, writing code for clients who paid me just enough to afford instant noodles and rent. It wasn't pretty. It wasn't Instagram-worthy, but it was mine. I remember the first time I tried to pitch a real client, an architecture firm in Atlanta. I had spent weeks prepping my pitch deck, designing mock-ups, rehearsing every word like it was a TED Talk. I thought I nailed it. They ghosted me. Didn't even say no thanks. That was my first real taste of the business world. Cold, silent, and absolutely uninterested in who I was or where I came from. But I didn't stop. Every rejection became fuel. Every ignored email pushed me to learn more. I stopped watching Netflix. I stopped playing games. I even stopped dating. It wasn't a sacrifice. It was a choice. And while the world kept moving, I stayed still. Still and focused. By year 2, I had 11 clients on monthly retainers. Small-time businesses, cafes, coaches, a local mechanic. Nothing glamorous, but I was doing what most of my old classmates couldn't. I was paying my bills, with my name on the invoice. Then one day, I got a message.
Hey man, long time. You still doing websites?
It was from Liam. The same Liam who once said, if I ever end up needing a site, I'd probably just use Wix or hire some intern. Now he needed help. His girlfriend had started a skincare brand, and apparently their friend with Photoshop couldn't deliver. I said, sure, send me the brief. He did. I tripled my normal rate. He paid without blinking. That was the first time it hit me. I had crossed the line. The line between being the one who asks to being the one they ask from. But I stayed quiet. No gloating, no told you so, no subtle flex on social media. I just delivered the work on time perfectly and said nothing. Because the best revenge is building quietly and letting them walk right into it. By year 4, things started to shift. I upgraded from that creaky bookstore apartment to a real place. Nothing fancy, just a 2-bedroom walk-up with decent lighting and enough space to stretch without knocking over a lamp. But it felt like a palace. The client base had grown, more retainers, better projects. And finally, my first $10K invoice. I stared at it for 10 minutes before hitting send, half expecting them to laugh or ghost me. They paid in full. Same day. I didn't tell anyone. No celebration dinner. No Instagram story with fake humility. Just me, alone, at my desk, opening a new tab to start the next project. But apparently, not everyone was silent. People started talking. Friends of friends. Old classmates who never spoke to me were now liking my posts on LinkedIn. A few even messaged me directly.
Dude, been watching your stuff, super impressive.
Man, looks like you're killing it. We should catch up. Didn't know you were into tech like that. Respect. I didn't take the bait. I knew what this was. The shift. The moment they realized the quiet kid didn't just survive. He adapted. He evolved. He built. One day, I got a message from Ethan. Ethan? The loudest one in our group. The walking megaphone. The guy who once said I'd be a forever freelancer living off scraps. Apparently, he had started a podcast. Some entrepreneurship thing with buzzwords and fake hustle energy. He invited me to be a guest. Said I'd be a great story. I declined. He replied with a laughing emoji. Too busy, huh? Or still the shy guy? I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Meanwhile, something bigger was brewing. One of my smaller clients, an online education startup, had just closed Series A funding. They wanted me to become a full-time partner, not just a vendor. Equity, board seat, backhand percentage of future sales. It wasn't flashy. There were no magazine covers, no startup parties, but it was real. And while Ethan was posting inspirational quotes about grind mode, I was signing term sheets. Real ones. They thought I was still in the same place. Same guy. Same game. But they were wrong. Because while they were clapping for each other online, I was silently becoming the one thing they never expected. Unreachable. The funny thing about success. It doesn't knock. It doesn't announce itself with fireworks or applause. It just shows up, quietly, uninvited. One day, you're grinding at 2 a.m. wondering if it's even worth it. The next, your inbox is flooded with collaboration requests, podcast invites, VC cold emails, and people asking if you mentor young entrepreneurs. I wasn't ready for it. I didn't want it. I never built this to be known. I built it so I could finally breathe on my own terms. But attention has a scent, and once it's on you, everyone who once looked through you suddenly starts squinting like they're recognizing an old friend. I started getting added to group chats. Hey man, remember college? Let's do a reunion Zoom sometime. We should totally grab drinks and catch up. I'd stare at those messages for minutes, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. And then I'd just close the app. They didn't miss me. They missed what I became. I kept my circle small, 3 people. 2 from work, 1 from childhood. No one else. I'd sit in cafes and overhear people talk about growth hacks and brand building, while I quietly reviewed 6-figure proposals. They wore flashy watches and talked loud. I wore black hoodies and let my silence speak. But even in all this growth, there was loneliness. No one to share the small wins with. No one to high-five at 3 a.m. when the code finally worked. No one who really got it. Because success built in silence isn't something people understand. It's not romantic. It's not viral. It's just real. I remember walking into a networking event once. Slick suits, champagne, fake smiles stretching farther than their business cards. I stood by the bar, sipping soda water, watching Ethan on the stage. Yes, again, talking about building with passion. The same guy who laughed when I said I was learning to code. He hadn't seen me yet. Then I felt a tap on my shoulder. Josh. He looked surprised, nervous. Dude, you came! Man, it's been a while. You doing okay? I smiled. I'm doing all right. That was it. I didn't tell him about the equity deals. or the acquisitions I was leading, or the startup I had just invested in that was quietly eating market share from his company. Because I wasn't there to prove anything. I had already won. The scoreboard was internal now, and I was the only one watching. You can only stay invisible for so long. At some point, your name starts showing up in rooms you've never walked into. People start mentioning you in conversations you were never invited to, not because you pushed your way in, but because you built something too real to ignore. It started small, my name tagged in a tweet by a well-known founder. Then a niche business blog featured a short article, the quiet operator behind a startup's 300% growth. I didn't even know they were writing it. Within weeks, my inbox wasn't just busy, it was buzzing. Speaking engagements, panel invites. One email just said, "We know you don't talk much publicly, but would you consider being our keynote?" I didn't reply, because for the first time I realized my silence wasn't just strategy. It had become my brand, but not everyone liked the shift. Josh stopped liking my posts. Ethan unfollowed me entirely. And Liam. Liam went from texting me, "Proud of you, man," to saying things like, "Must be nice when you don't have a family to worry about." Some of us didn't get to sit around and build. We had real responsibilities. That's when I understood. This wasn't just curiosity anymore. It was resentment, not because I changed, but because they stayed the same. They still met for beers once a month, talked about crypto, fantasy football, and how the economy was rigged. I knew because someone sent me a screenshot from their group chat. Josh had written, "He got lucky. Right place, right time. Anyone could have done it." Liam responded, "Yeah, I bet he's miserable. You can see it in his eyes." Funny, no one saw my eyes. I hadn't posted a photo of myself in 3 years. But that's how it works, right? When they can't understand your silence, they fill it with their own stories. And yet through all this noise, I remained still, focused, because they could hate me, envy me, ignore me. It didn't matter. I didn't build for them. I built for the kid I used to be. The one who sat alone at lunch, head down, heart heavy, dreaming of a day when no one else would decide his value. That kid didn't want revenge. He wanted peace. But sometimes, peace comes wrapped in the quiet sound of your enemies choking on your name. It started with a call. A boutique consulting firm was collapsing under poor leadership. Their clients were panicking, looking for exits. One of those clients was a company I had quietly advised for 2 years. The CEO texted me, "They're about to go under. You should make a move." So I did. No public offers, no bidding war, just quiet due diligence, followed by a discreet acquisition through a holding company that didn't even have my name on it. Within 2 weeks, it was done. I now owned a company that had once rejected my application for an internship. Irony has a beautiful sense of timing. But it wasn't just about revenge. It was about building leverage. Because once you're inside the system, not knocking on the door, but owning the hallway, you don't need validation. You decide direction. And that's when I saw the name. On an internal email thread about restructuring, tucked between department leads and operations staff. Ethan M., sales manager. I paused. Was it that Ethan? A quick check on LinkedIn confirmed it. Same guy. Same voice, now aged with desperation. Still talking big. Still posting about boss moves and side hustles, while working at a company I now owned. He didn't know. Of course he didn't. I didn't change anything. Didn't fire him. Didn't demote him. Didn't even mention it. Because power doesn't gloat. It observes. I had my assistant flag his performance reports. Not to act, just to watch. 3 weeks later, HR forwarded a complaint. Ethan had berated a junior employee during a pitch. Said she didn't have the fire to sell. I remembered when he said that about me. Back in college, "You're smart, man, but you've got no fire." Now he was burning bridges in a company he didn't know I owned. My legal team prepared a file. I could have let him go. Could have made it public. Could have humiliated him. But I didn't. I shelved it. Because the real power play is knowing you can end someone and choosing not to. That's when I realized something deeper. I hadn't just outrun them. I had outgrown the need for revenge. But that didn't mean I was done. Because while they were still climbing ladders, I was quietly removing rungs. They say success is the best revenge. But what they don't tell you is that success can also be the loneliest silence you'll ever hear. I had everything I once dreamed of. Freedom. Control. Power. My name was whispered in rooms I never entered. Investors who once ignored me now chased me. Startups sent pitch decks like offerings to a silent god. And yet, I felt nothing. No joy, no celebration. Just this dull, echoing quiet that no amount of money could fill. Late nights in hotel suites overlooking city skylines. Eating alone, laptop open. News headlines flashing about acquisitions and partnership. My name buried in the footnotes. Exactly how I liked it. But sometimes I wondered, what would it have felt like to share those moments, to have someone say, "I'm proud of you," and actually mean it? Then she appeared. Not in some grand movie scene moment, just a conversation. A client call turned long talk. A shared opinion turned mutual laughter. Her name was Mia. She ran a design studio in Chicago. Smart, sharp, quiet, like me. But with eyes that didn't just look, they saw. For the first time in years, I didn't check my watch during a conversation, didn't replay every sentence I said, didn't feel the need to prove anything. She didn't care about what I owned, or how many companies I had equity in. She cared about what I believed. We started talking regularly. At first, it was about work, then books, then music, then silence. And I realized, for the first time in a decade, my silence wasn't a weapon. It was a space where I could finally breathe. I told her things I never told anyone, about how I used to sit alone in cafeterias, how I hated my own voice for years, how I built my empire not out of passion, but pain. She listened, not with sympathy, but with understanding. And that's when it hit me. Maybe all this time, I wasn't trying to win. I was trying not to lose myself. But in becoming the man no one could ignore, I had become the man no one could truly know. I sat alone in my office one night, watching the city lights blink like a heartbeat. Deals were pending. Money was flowing. Power was mine. But for the first time, I didn't feel like the strongest man in the room. I felt like the most fragile. And maybe that's what real power is. Not in domination, not in silence, but in choosing to let someone in when you've spent your whole life building walls to keep them out. Life has a cruel sense of timing. Just when you think you've buried the past, it sends you a reminder. Not dramatic, not loud, just a soft knock at the edge of your new piece. Seems like a strong applicant, sales leadership experience, referred by someone at Proxim. My assistant forwarded it with a note. It came in the form of a resume. I scanned the email, looked at the name. Joshua D. Josh? The same Josh who once laughed when I said I'd freelance. The same Josh who, in our group chat, called me lucky. The same Josh who unfollowed me the moment my name showed up in headlines. And now he was applying for a mid-level role at a company I owned. He didn't know. Of course he didn't. I wasn't listed on any org chart. My name never touched the public paperwork. He thought he was sending his resume to a recruiter. In reality, he was handing it directly into my hands. I stared at it for a while. Not out of anger, just stillness. Not even satisfaction. Because for the first time, I didn't feel the need to retaliate. I didn't want revenge. I didn't want to gloat. I just wanted clarity. Mia and I had grown closer. We talked late into the night now. Reminded me that power wasn't about control. She challenged me, softened me. It was about intention. Probably flagged his application for rejection. So I asked myself, what would the old May have done? Maybe even sent a polite, "We've moved forward with other candidates," just to twist the knife. But the new me, invite him in for an interview. Give him a fair shot. He wrote a note, no special treatment, good or bad. If he's qualified, hire him. I didn't sign it. Later that week, he walked into our office. Didn't need to, wearing a slightly wrinkled suit. A smile that tried too hard. Eyes that had seen some failure now. He didn't recognize anyone. Didn't recognize me. Watching silently from a frosted glass room across the hall, I watched him shake hands. Life has a cruel sense of timing. Just when you think you've buried the past, it sends you a reminder. Not loud, not dramatic, just a soft knock at the edge of your new piece. It came in the form of a resume. My assistant forwarded it with a note. Seems like a strong applicant, sales leadership experience, referred by someone at Proxim. I scanned the email, looked at the name. Joshua D. Josh? The same Josh who once laughed when I said I'd freelance. The same Josh who, in our group chat, called me lucky. The same Josh who unfollowed me the moment my name showed up in headlines. And now he was applying for a mid-level role at a company I owned. He didn't know. Of course he didn't. I wasn't listed on any org chart. My name never touched the public paperwork. He thought he was sending his resume to a recruiter. In reality, he was handing it directly into my hands. I stared at it for a while. Not out of anger, not even satisfaction, just stillness. Because for the first time, I didn't feel the need to retaliate. I didn't want revenge. I didn't want to gloat. I just wanted clarity. Mia and I had grown closer. We talked late into the night now. She challenged me, softened me, reminded me that power wasn't about control. It was about intention. So I asked myself, what would the old May have done? Probably flagged his application for rejection. Maybe even sent a polite, "We've moved forward with other candidates," just to twist the knife. But the new me, he wrote a note, invite him in for an interview. Give him a fair shot. If he's qualified, hire him. No special treatment, good or bad. I didn't sign it. Didn't need to. Later that week, he walked into our office, wearing a slightly wrinkled suit. A smile that tried too hard. Eyes that had seen some failure now. He didn't recognize anyone. Didn't recognize me. Watching silently from a frosted glass room across the hall, I watched him shake hands, speak with hope, try to prove he still had something to offer. And in that moment, I didn't see the guy who once mocked me. I saw a man trying to rebuild, trying to survive. We hired him, not as a statement, not as a gesture, but because he fit. And as he settled into his new role, he still never knew the founder whose coffee he passed in the hallway each morning. Never knew the owner who approved his expense reports. Never knew the man whose silence had once been fueled by his doubt. And that was enough. Because true power doesn't need to be seen. True revenge doesn't need applause. Sometimes the greatest victory is letting go of the war you no longer need to fight. A number in the bank. I once believed success was a finish line, that there'd be a moment, a nod from someone who once doubted me, a headline on a blog that would finally make me feel complete.
But standing here now,
Over a decade into this journey, I realize success was never a destination. To return to myself, it was just the road I took. My name is still absent from articles. I decline interviews. I don't speak at conferences. Most people have no idea who I am. In companies they work for, but they feel the ripple of my decisions, because while others chased followers, products they use, and systems they navigate, I built frameworks. I wrote the architecture of legacies, while they posted stories, not in a high-rise, not in some cold modern fortress. Mia and I moved in together last fall. A small house with creaky stairs. We laugh more now, and too many bookshelves. Not louder, but more honestly. I speak more, sometimes when she's asleep on the couch, and I'm up reading by the window. I think about the boy I used to be. The one who felt invisible, every joke whispered behind his back, who carried the sting of every dismissed idea. You were never weak. I want to tell him, you were just preparing, and someday they'll wish they had listened when you whispered. He's good at what he does. Josh works 2 floors below me, and that's fine. Still doesn't know. Reliable, focused. I walk past him in the elevator sometimes. I nod back. He nods, entirely unaware of the war that's long since ended. 2 men carrying entirely different stories,